Hey nerdy knitters, Tanya here. It's the end of another month and that means another monthly knitting roundup. So grab your knitting and a beverage and let's settle in and have a good chat. Last month I was feeling the need for a change, so we did a little bit of a change with our podcast. Instead of me just sitting here doing sort of a show and tell, showing you each of my projects and telling you the same information about them every month until they're done, I thought it would be more interesting to show you the knitting as I was knitting. Now, of course, not every single stitch and every single step of every project, but for each project, I tried to make a note to grab my camera at least once and record some of the process for whatever I was working on that particular section of that project. So we'll do some of the sitting here and chatting, but I'm going to put all of those bits in there as well, so you get more of the as I'm knitting on the go. And I think that's just, I don't know, a little interesting way to demonstrate things, just to change things up a little so it's not the same all the time. And of course, I'm open to your feedback. There were some good suggestions last time about slowing things down. Some of the things that I recorded, I did in a quick speed setting and it was too fast. So I adjusted some camera settings and I think it's slower this time. But of course, share your feedback and tell me what you think of the little vloggy bits, or if you just prefer me to sit and talk through each of my projects. I'm open to your feedback in all forms, as long as you keep it polite, of course. But we're gonna dive into all of the projects. But first, a couple of things. Last weekend, I was teaching at the Next Level Knitting Conference, and it was a really fun event. I taught 2 different classes, went a lot better than last year's event where I had spilled water on the floor just before I was supposed to teach, and I had a puddle and a towel down by my feet while I was teaching. Didn't have that. This time I was smart and used a closed cup with a lid, so no accidental water spills. I think everything went pretty well. Did have a few little issues, for some reason I had my Zoom camera set up to mirror things, so when I was looking at what I was knitting, it was reversed on the camera and that was throwing me off, but I got that figured out before the second class, and a couple small technical things, but for the most part everything went really well. I enjoyed teaching the classes, and it was really nice because, well, during the teaching I don't really have time. Somebody else is looking at the chat, so I can't go in there and chat with people, but after each session they had some breakout rooms, so you could get right on camera and we could chat back and forth, and I was able to meet a few of the people who watch the videos here. So that was really exciting to talk to you. So hello Monique and Calm Crafts and my craft room, and there were probably some others. I can't remember all of your names, but it was so much fun to get to actually put some faces to some names for the people who watch the videos here and leave comments. So hello to you. Thank you for joining me over there and chatting with me for a few minutes. It was so nice to get to meet you. So one more thing, I guess it's technically something that's off my needles, but it's a pattern release, so I wanted to put it here, but I should put it in the off my needles section as well. But a new toe up sock pattern. So this one uses a round wedge toe shaping with yarn overs that we close, so there's no holes with the shaping, but it's easier to make a yarn over than to make one when you've got thin yarn and tiny needles, and it's just easier, I think. And a Turkish cast on, so a closed toe cast on, the super simplest cast on there is. And then you increase for your toe, and you're working just in stockinette, and there is a lace instep, a lace panel up the instep, really simple. And the heel shaping is wrap and turn short row heel. But I also included a mini gusset in there because short row heels, if you have a high instep, can be really tight across that point. So adding a few extra stitches helps relieve some of that tightness, so you can enjoy the benefits of a short row heel but also have a little extra space there as well. And it finishes with a little folded picot hem with the option to skip the picots if you just want a plain folded hem. So this is all new video release, new pattern, so I'll have a link for this down below if you're interested in doing a new sock tutorial. Now this one uses Knit Picks yarn. The static yarn, this colorway is called the Max. It's very Easter egg, but it's a self-patterning yarn. I really like the color. It's it looks like Easter colors to me. So it was a nice time to knit it because Easter just passed. So I was working on these socks for that tutorial. So I guess that is the first thing in our finished projects. And we can't forget about our book for the month, which is Homestead Cables by Knit Picks, which is a fabulous collection of cable patterns. This pretty cardigan and a few designs on the back as well. I really like this hooded scarf right here, and this cable wrap is really lovely as well. And this vest too. I love the cable in the center and the different stitch patterns with all that texture. It's just really lovely. So altogether there's 9 patterns in this collection, and here's a picture of all of them. We've got a cable hat, and I love how it's got 2 different stitch patterns, one cable for the brim and then another like larger cable for the body of the hat itself. And then a cardigan down here. This lovely vest. I really like the vest. That's nice. And the scarf. I like this hooded scarf. This might be something I'm going to knit. It's just not, it looks like pretty classic cables. Like I see some XO cables in there. Nothing like super difficult, just classic cables, but I really like the idea of a hooded scarf. I just think it looks really cool. And a pullover, that's another really lovely pattern. It's harder to see because it's in a dark yarn, but it's really nice. Another cable cardigan, a cable wrap, which, hey, if you like wraps, this is perfect. If you like cables and you want something that's really warm and cozy, that is a good option. Another cable hat. This one's really like a classic design. This wrap looks really comfy and cozy too. And of course, you can't forget like the little cute animals too. So those are all of the patterns in this book, and of course it's got all of the basic information you'd need. Lots of pictures of the finished garment. I really like the way they did the shaping on the crown for this hat. And then all of the information that you would need to knit it, your finished measurements in the different sizes, your needles, notions, and gauge information. And then of course, I'm not going to show all of the pattern here, but the written instructions, and of course everything is written instructions and charted instructions as well. And each one has their own legend and chart right within the pattern. So everything is like all together in one place. There's that really lovely wrap. Really like the cables on this as well. This one was done with Swish, which is a superwash merino yarn. So I bet it's nice and soft. Lots of pretty cables. So really good collection in here. It's a really nice hat too. Lots of great photographs of every finished pattern. So if you like cables, and I would say if you like more than a couple patterns in here, then this would be worth the investment. So here's my projects for the month, just kind of thrown out on the bed. I've got 5 different things I am working on. And hopefully at least that pink sweater in the corner I would like to finish this month. I think I can, but the rest are probably still going to be in progress projects. So let's take a quick peek at each of them to see where I'm at now and where I want to be at the end of this month. So first of all is this scarf. So my plan with this, I've just placed my marker right there. The plan is to do 50 rows of that chart, which is 100 rows of knitting. That is my goal for the month, to finish another 50 rows. So we'll see if we get there. If I do it right, then 2 rows a day will get me there, but sometimes I don't get it to it and I do other projects instead and I've got to double up on those rows. But let's just hope we get through that 50 rows. That would be the end of the second chart, and I just have 3 more charts to go after that. So that's the plan for this for the month. Then I have this shawl that I'm working on, Festival of Stitches by Lisa Haynes, and I am working on some cables. Both sides are done up to this point right here, and I've just started this part on one side. So I'm not sure if I'll be doing the second part of here on this side before I switch back to the other, but I want to at least get through the cables this month. I don't love cables on fingering weight, sock weight yarn. It's not my favorite thing. I don't mind them on larger weights of yarn, but I just dislike them. These tiny little cables, I really don't like them. So I think my only plan with this shawl this month, I don't plan to finish it, but if I can get through both cable sections, I'll be happy with that. So that's the plan with this right now. Otherwise, I really love this shawl. I love my colors and I love all of the different stitch patterns, and you don't have time to get bored before you're moving on to something else, but I just want to get past these cables. So while I'm right here on this part, I think for crochet, as long as I maintain what I'm doing, if I can do one more motif, I think I'm on motif number 6, which is some rectangular boxes, and I think I have to do 4 of them. So my plan for this blanket is to finish that motif, all 4 of them, and then if there are any finishing steps like putting it together with other blocks, I'd like to get that done as well. So we'll see how we do with that. because last month I did not touch this at all until like the day I was recording part of the podcast, and I had one more motif to do that I had to finish and then sew them all together, but I got it done and that's good. But I think my plan this time is to finish the next motif and any seaming that has to happen or sewing up. And then we have our two sweaters that I'm working on. Well, the first is a cardigan. So right now, this one is kind of a mess. I'm working on the back. The whole body is finished up to the armhole, and now like I've got things on holders, the right and the front. The right and the left fronts are on holders, and I'm working across the back right here. And I think I'm about halfway done with the back. So I think my plan for this one, I want to finish the back. I've got a couple more inches to go, I think maybe 3.5 or so. And then I have to do the shoulder shaping, and then I'm not sure after that. I haven't read the rest of the pattern, so I don't know. So I think the plan is to at least get the back done and get started. It's probably one front at a time, so get started on one of the front sides, and that would be good progress on this, I think. And then my last sweater that I'm working on, I want to get this one finished. That's the big goal. And there's not a ton left to do, and I'm knitting on US 10s, so this should be pretty fast. I have one sleeve left to go. So I think I tried it on to check. I want to do about maybe 5 more rounds, and then I've got to decrease and finish like the cuff, which is about 1 inch more, and then repeat for the sleeve over here. And then I've got the neckline to finish off, which it looks super wide here, but it's really not. When I wear it, it's just fine. So it's already on a cord, so I just have to put the needle tips in, and I'm going to do some short row shaping for the back neck and then finish the edging. So I should be able to get that done this month, definitely. And then I'll be back down to just one sweater project, which is one of my rules, is only one sweater at a time. But this one is for class, so it's okay. So besides that pair of socks for that tutorial, I have one other thing that is off my needles. My Love Note sweater that I've been using sort of as my teaching for the group coaching program that I'm teaching right now about knitting a sweater that fits. We're talking about top-down raglan sweaters, and in this group I introduced top-down yoke sweaters. So, because yokes and raglans are kissing cousins, like they're very much related in how they are worked from the top down, just where you put the increases that change some things and how you can choose the right size and different adjustments that you can make for one but not the other, but they're both pretty close. And then of course after you finish the yoke, everything else, the sleeves and the body, any modifications would be exactly the same. So I knit the Love Note from Tin Can Knits using 2 yarns from Knit Picks. I used Hawthorne fingering in Cobbler Speckle and then Aloft in Blush, and it gave me like this sort of cotton candy effect with this fuzziness to it. And this was my first time doing one of those, like holding 2 yarns double with the fuzzy yarn to get that effect. So my sweater's all finished. I just finished recording the tutorial for the class on how to pick up your stitches from a provisional cast on, which I did. I did my provisional cast on right onto a circular needle cord, so I didn't have to pick up anything. I just had to pop my needle tips on there. Made it much easier. Then I demonstrated how to work short row shaping when you're working from the top, from the bottom up, basically. The original pattern didn't have that. It actually has you doing some decrease rounds to pull the neckline in, but I liked the way the neckline was at that point. I think it's a really good idea when you're not sure what you want to do with the neckline to use a provisional cast on, because then you can come back later and decide on that when the whole sweater's finished and you can see how it's fitting everywhere, and then you can decide what to do with that neckline. So I was really glad that I made that choice, because I decided to forego all of those extra decrease rounds and just leave it the way it was, add some short rows to the back neck, and then just a little bit, maybe 1 inch, I think, of like some ribbing at the top, and worked out really well. So here's my finished sweater. I wanted one that I could wear with a few summer dresses, so I wanted a cropped length to wear with those dresses, just because sort of this during transition weather when it's still like chilly outside, so I can pop this sweater over some of those dresses and wear them while it's still a bit cold. So it's perfect for that. I probably wouldn't wear it with like pants or jeans or anything because it's way too cropped for what I like for my style, but over dresses, it's absolutely perfect. But I'm really pleased with it. I think it came out nice. And as far as adjustments, I knit one size, I think the 5th adult size, but that wasn't enough sleeve for my arm circumference, like that size. So I looked at the 6th size for the stitches in the sleeve count there, and I added that number of stitches in one of the increased rounds to give me enough space. And then when it was time to divide the body and sleeves, I put those extra stitches in with the sleeve count, so I would have enough for the sleeves. And I also, for the bust adjustment, because when you have a larger bust and you knit a sweater like this, you choose your full bust, which you have to for a yoke sweater, but a lot of that fabric, where you need it across the front, but it's half of it's in the back, so you end up with too much fabric in the back and really not enough in the front. So what I did was basically I moved the sleeves back a little. I took some of the stitches from the back, put them in my stitch count for the front, and then there's some raglan shaping as well. So I had to figure that out before I did the raglan increases so I could put the sleeves in the right place. But it worked out really well. I'm really pleased with the results for this sweater, and the modifications that I made I think work really well. So one of my big projects for the year is the Twilight Realm scarf. Yes, a scarf is a big project when it is double knit. This is a pattern by Genevieve Legier. It's just, this pattern is super simple. It's just 5 charts, but it's like 1,000 rows of knitting by the time I'm going to be done. Each chart is about 100 rows. And I am just about finished with the 2nd chart. So I'm just squeaking in. I wanted to do half a chart a month until I think I'll finish in October or November. I can't remember now, but I'll finish before Christmas, which is the goal. And double knitting takes a lot of time. So I decided to make it as easy as possible on myself, and just when I take my like either breakfast or lunch break, I like to watch a bit of YouTube and I like to do some knitting. I'll eat my meal and I'll just sit at the table with my knitting and knit for a bit. So I'm like, that's the perfect time to sort of make this a habit. If I do 2 rows of the chart every day, I can get through that 50 rows of the chart. That's 100 rows of knitting every month very easily if I just during my lunch breaks, and I don't have to do it on the weekends, but I sort of catch up during the week. So I'll look at like whatever day, like say it's the 15th, I'll know, okay, I've got to have 30 rows done now. So I'll check and make sure I'm either at that, or if I didn't get to it over the weekend, then I can catch up and do a few extra rows during that lunch break. But that has worked surprisingly well. I'm still like a week left in this month while I'm sitting here recording, and I only have 1 row of the chart left to do for the 2nd chart, and then I can move on to chart number 3 for May and June. So I think I'm doing really well with that, and that's working really well to do that every day. Got a little bit of a vlog stuff here. I spent some time knitting outside. It was nice and sunny, and then I got out there and my hands started to get really cold, so I only did a couple of rows and then it was back in the house, but it was nice to get a little bit of sun. So the yarn I'm using for this is Comfy Fingering from Knit Picks in Clarity and Planetarium. So a very pale blue and a dark navy blue, and the colors look really good together, and my daughter picked them. She wanted the colors, I guess, that are from the game or similar or something like that. She's a really big fan of the different Zelda games. So one of the issues I'd been having with double knitting, once I got used to the process again, I'd only ever done just like 1 swatch for the master's program. After I got used to doing it again, and I tried doing 2 hands, like a yarn in each hand, which was one suggestion, and which is what I do when I do stranded knitting. I could not like get myself sorted to do that with double knitting. I don't know why, but I guess the action of bringing the yarns to the front to purl, and when I hold the yarn in my right hand, it's usually just for knitting. I don't really purl with my right hand. I find that much more difficult. So I think that action was too much for me. I tried the little colorwork ring on my finger. That didn't work either. That was like an exercise in frustration. So I just end up holding both yarns in my left hand. But with double knitting, it's all right if they get twisted together, because that's sort of like in between anyway. And you want them to twist on the edges so all the colors stay connected to each other. So I just ended up holding them in my one hand. So that was fine once I got myself sorted. I'm actually getting a little quicker. Working on a big project like this will definitely give you more time to develop your speed. But my only other issue was the edge stitches, which are pretty wonky. It's hard to tell in the dark navy blue, but it's very obvious in this really light color. When you look at them on the edge, you can see they're much bigger than the other stitches. And I realized it's when I get sort of towards the end of the row, because you do knit more loosely when you're doing double knitting because of that action of knitting and then purling. So you're sort of carrying all this excess yarn out of the stitches, and it ends up in those end stitches, which is what was larger. The first stitch, when I do the next row, stays super tight because I can pull on it. But by the time I get to the end, that last stitch is pretty loose. So I asked for your advice. There were some really good tips, and one of them I actually went with. Candell, she says she's a master knitter. She didn't feel comfortable with double knitting, and when she was working on her DK swatch, her double knitting swatch, Leslie gave a tip for the edges. For the first 2 stitches from the edge, wrap the yarn counterclockwise and also at the end of the row. That tightens up the edge stitches, and then of course you have to knit them through the back loop to keep them from twisting. So that worked so well. Like, it really solved my issue. So instead of wrapping like you would normally for a so your stitch will sit in that western stitch mount with the right leg in the front, you wrap in the reverse direction, so it reverses the stitch mount. So you have to make sure you knit it through the back loop because you don't want to twist the stitch, but by reverse wrapping it, you're using less yarn to create those stitches. And the same with the purl stitches, like it's a knit purl, knit purl. So I'm doing it for the first 3 and the last 3 stitches of every row. And it's improved the edge stitches quite a lot. Like, not so drastically that people will think that I made some big change and changed the pattern. So that worked really well. But another one that I wanted to highlight, that if I ever do a double knitting project again, we will see. This is a big, I mean, this is almost a year-long project, and it's just a scarf, but it takes me so long to do it. But let me see if I can find her. Midnight Knitter, and I'm gonna link to her scarf on Ravelry, that she slips the last 2 stitches with the yarn woven in between, and the edges come out very neat, and she shows this on her Mario Brothers scarf. So I'm gonna link to that so you can see what she did, and it is a very neat edge. But my only issue is I hadn't been slipping the edge stitches for that first 100 rows of a chart. So I didn't want to introduce that. I was concerned that that would be too much of a difference. Like, a slipped stitch edge does look different than a regular knit edge. So, but definitely a good idea. It's basically what you would do with any project where you want to like put a nice neat slip stitch edge. You just slip a stitch or 2, but just one, I guess, for each color. Or the last 2. So one of each color, I'm guessing, to keep that really nice and neat. So that's a good tip as well. And my Festival of Stitches by Lisa Haynes is coming along really, really well. Last month, I was bemoaning the fact that I was stuck on the cables. I like cables, but I don't like them on fingering weight yarn because it's too easy to lose them, and I did not enjoy it. So I promised myself if I got through both of the cable sections, I could cast on another project. I already had, well, you've seen all the projects I have going on, but I gave myself permission to cast on something new. I had just gotten some new yarn, and I figured that would be my reward for getting through the cables. And let's see if I did that. Made some pretty good progress on this month. So let me pull it around so you can see this side. This is what I've finished since the last episode. This cable section, which, yeah, I'm not loving it. And then this was the next section, which is very, very simple, just a textured pattern, really lovely. Now I have to work these 2 stitch patterns on the other side. I'm reversing the colors according to the pattern. That's what the pattern has you do. And you can see right here, that's my progress so far. Not very much. I'm just starting the cable section, about to work another right side row. And I'm pleased that I've got the first side finished, let's just say that. But I need to motivate myself to work on this second side. So I got some yarn recently from Hypnotic Yarns. She sent me, I had ordered a subscription to Yarnable. I know the owner, and I'd been talking to her, and she graciously sent me some other little surprises, some extra yarn, and these cute little needle toppers right here. And a couple of these, she had watched one of my Notions videos, and I'd mentioned I hadn't used anything like this, so she sent me some to try out, and I'm absolutely in love. I just think they're adorable, and I love that they stay on really well. I really like them. But anyway, she sent me some yarn as well, and I really wanted to cast something on right away. But if you watched my rules video recently, you know that sometimes I need to motivate myself to finish projects. And right now, I need some motivation to finish these cables. I don't love doing cables on fingering weight yarn, on sock yarn. So my motivation to finish this is when I get this cable section done, I can cast on a new project with that yarn. I'll show you that yarn in a little bit and what I want to knit with it, but I'm not going to let myself cast that on until I finish these cables. And it's about a week or so before I think I'll be recording the podcast episode, so hopefully I can power through and get this section done. It's not a huge section. I've already done this side. It's not super big, just that much. So if I can get that done this week, then I'm going to let myself cast on that new project at the end of the week for the weekend. I'll let myself have a new project. So I'm going to record a bit of this while I knit today. I don't imagine I'm going to get all of those cables done today, but hopefully by the end of the week, I will get this done. We'll see. And one other thing I wanted to mention, some people had mentioned that they really liked spiral cable needles, and I'd never used one before. I have a few that I use and I like, don't really care for using them with sock yarn. And left leaning cables, I'm okay with not doing any sort of like using a cable needle. I can do that one easily without a cable needle. Right leaning cables, I tend to drop the stitches quite a bit, and I try my hardest not to, but so I got this one anyway from Fox and Pine, and I'm really looking forward to trying this one out. It does look a little big for like the size of my stitches, but I'm going to try it and see what I think of this while I'm working these cables, or if I'm just going to go back to doing cables without a cable needle, because on my cable crossing rows there are a lot of cables. So we'll test it out and we'll see. And I accomplished that goal. There is one side, cables all done. That's the white right here. And then this was the next stitch pattern. And then over here, the colors are reversed. There's the cables in the navy blue, and then that second stitch pattern. And I'm finally on the edging. So this is the first side. It's just twisted rib. And then I've got to do that over on the other side. And then there's like a tassel to add, and this will be finished. So it's quite long. It's very nice. So I've got to give it a good wash in a block when it's all done, stretch it out and stretch it open. But all the stitch patterns are a lot of fun, except for those cables. Didn't care for those. My next project that's still on my needles is the Oknaha cardigan by Kate Davies, and I'm closing in on the end. Hopefully I'll have that done. I would like to take that one. We're going on an anniversary trip in the early part of May, so my goal is to have that finished. So I'll have my two new sweaters, my love note and that cardigan, to take on the trip. So hopefully that's my plan, is to get that done. I'm really pleased with the cardigan and how it's coming out, and I'm going to show you a bit of an overhead view of how it's constructed. Here's the Kate Davies cardigan that I'm working on, and right now it's kind of it looks like a mess. It's just so many different parts and pieces. So I think at the time, the last episode, was working on getting to the underarm so I could separate. I've done that. So I separated way back here, and I finished the back. So this is the back of the cardigan right here. So you finish up to the shoulders, and then there's some short row shoulder shaping for both sides. And then both sides for the shoulders are put on holders. And then the center back neck is put on another cord, and I've got that center stitch marked, because the next thing to do is the fronts, and I've already finished the right front. So let me turn it this way. So this is the right front panel. So from that underarm, I've worked all the way up, then you get to the shoulder, do your shoulder shaping, and then you separate the lace from the stockinette, and the stockinette portion gets done. You do a 3 needle bind off with those back stitches that were on hold. So the back right shoulder and the front right shoulder join with a 3 needle bind off, and then you continue knitting just this lace panel. So this part I've finished, now it's done, it's on hold. And I have to do the same over on the left side. So here's the left in progress right now. So I've done up to my shoulder, and I think, yeah, I've finished my shoulder shaping. It's been a while, so I've just pulled this out, but I finished all this quite a while ago, but I wanted to show it here. But yes, I've done from the underarm up to the shoulder shaping is done. So my next step right now is to do a 3-needle bind off with, if I can find it here, the back left shoulder to this left front shoulder. 3-needle bind off with those, and then I'll continue knitting just the lace panel till it's the same length as this right panel. And then what happens is, I haven't read all the way yet in the instructions, but it's going to be joined along the back here. So I still have the left side to do, and then they are going to somehow get sewn down or joined to this back neck and then sewn together. So that lace continues all the way up around and becomes sort of the back neck. Then I still have the sleeves, but at that point I'm going to have to wait and see what I've got left for yarn. I might have to order another skein, or depending on how short I want the sleeves or how far on my arm the cardigan drops, I might be able to squeeze out enough between my one skein and what I've got left over for bits and my swatch. But this is where we're at right now. And my crochet project, before I get to some new things that I cast on, I did cast on some new stuff this month, even though I've got a pile of things going on here, is the Lily Pond blanket by Janie Crow. And I've actually been looking at I want to do another blanket. I don't know, I'm going to have to find somebody to give it to. I've got a couple friends. I'm going to ask if they want a crochet blanket. I don't want to force one on them if they don't want it. But I've looked at a few different designs, but I just really like Janie Crow's patterns. So I might do another one of hers. I've got it narrowed down to like 4, so we'll see. But this one now, I have just finished the 6th motif and I put everything all together. So I'm going to show you how that process went. I finished the next motif in my crochet blanket. This is what it looks like. It's got these lovely little bottom baubles down here on the bottom, and then these wonderful sort of wave looking stitches. I had to make 4 of these, so they're all done, but as you can see, I have a lot of ends to weave in. So that's my project right now, is to sit and watch Fruity Knitting on YouTube while I weave in all of these ends, and then I have to do a little sort of crocheted edge along each side to make it easier to seam, and then 2 of these blocks will be sewn to this motif. This will be in the middle of 2 of them. This is going to be one on 2 sides of the blanket. So I've got to do all of that today. So I'm going to weave in all my ends, do that little crocheted seam on the side, and then sew them to this block. So that is one side finished, just the one side. So now I've got to go and weave in the ends on this side and repeat this for 3 more pieces. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how I'm going to sew them up together. All my ends are woven in. It took quite a while. There is my pile of scraps right there. But I'm all set to do the next bit of making up. And the first thing I had to do was the slip stitch edge, which I've just finished as well. It's the same color as the edge on this piece, so they'll be sewn together. But I didn't have to do them on both sides. I just had to do 2 on the right and 2 on the left, because those are the sides that'll be joined to that block. So I can set 2 of these aside, 1 of each, and this is going to be joined to this, just like that. So that's my next step, is to get this piece joined. Then I am all done with this block and I can move on to the next piece, which is block number 7. There it is, all finished. Seaming actually was not very long. I just have to weave in a few more ends and these motifs are finished and ready to go, and I can start my next square. The next project has sort of a little bit of a story to it, so I wanted to share that first. This project, which has been sitting in a bag and just sitting, there was like a lot more yarn with it, but it was just sitting in a bag on my shelf. I hadn't done anything with it. And I finally pulled it out, got a shadow box, and put it in here. This is the last project that my husband's grandmother was working on. She died in 2020. And there's some mistakes. She was not well. She was sort of forgetting things and losing her memory. But I thought it would be nice, instead of finishing them, because I mean, I don't know. I just like the idea of preserving it, I guess. Still on the needles. She had 1 mitten finished, just the thumb left to do. So I did this, and I showed it to my mother-in-law because I didn't know if she wanted it, but she thought it looked nice on my shelf. It was right above my head where those Lego roses are, but I thought I'd pull it down to show you. But I finally got this finished, so I just thought it was a nice keepsake. I'm going to put her name and like birth date and maybe her picture on the back, just so it's all here and preserved for my daughter if she doesn't knit, but I think it's just a nice keepsake anyway. So I'm really pleased with how this came out. But it's actually, the yarn is just, I don't know, some random acrylic yarn. Like you can tell, like it's a sort of worsted or light bulky Aran weight maybe. But one of those giant logs of a skein of yarn. And I didn't want to stick all that in here. So I just stuck 1 little ball of yarn in there with the mittens. And I'm really pleased with how this came out. But then I was thinking with that yarn, I didn't know what to do with it. But my mother-in-law, she has 1 sister. She's got a boatload of brothers and 1 sister. And her one of her daughters is pregnant. So I'm like, well, why don't I just knit like a little stuffy or something for the baby? So that's what I'm working on right now. So I found this cute little baby elephant pattern from Claire Farrell. So I'll link that down below. So I finished the knitting part, super, super simple. I don't remember what the weight of the yarn was for the project, but I mean, it's a stuffy, so it's just going to change size basically. So the body of the elephant is all done, just garter stitch, and the 2 ears are finished. And I've got the locations marked out to put the ears on and the eyes. So I have to go pick up some like toy stuffing so I can like get them all stuffed and everything. But so I thought that would be one thing to do. So that is the next thing. That was really quick, like goodness, maybe 2 evenings and I was done with this. So, I mean, not exactly, it's not a great acrylic. It's just, it feels rough, but for a stuffy that can just sit and, you know, that was the yarn from, it'll be the great-grandmother for the baby. So I'm really, I don't know, I thought that would be a nice gift for the baby. So I'm dropping balls of yarn. I had to stop and pick things up and get this other project. So this is the other new thing that is on my needles. I am giving in and knitting a Musselburgh hat. I know, all the trends lately. So this one has a bit of a story. I decided I wanted as a splurge every month because, I mean, the channel's doing good, so I thought it would be fun to do a subscription box. I had done one in the past. I'd gotten it as a gift. It was okay. I liked it just fine, but it wasn't all that, the other one. I'm I don't think it's even in business anymore, that one. But I did some research and I was looking around, and the one I chose is Yarnable. And I am really pleased with the yarn. I'm going to show you like April's box. It's not going to be a spoiler. By the time you'll see it, it's been out and released to the customers. But you get an idea of what's in it. But I also happen to know the owner of the company, Cheryl, and she's got another yarn line, Hypnotic Yarns. And we'd been chatting, and she had just seen my videos on YouTube, one about notions, where I was talking about different notions I liked and the ones I didn't like, things I hadn't tried, and all of that. And I had told her I just signed up for her subscription box, and I was really looking forward to getting it. She surprised me by sending me some other things along with my subscription, and that includes some other yarn. So that yarn is right here. This is, let's see if I can pull it all out. This is Hypnotic Yarns. Let me check the colors again. This lighter one is called Wildflower, and this one is Amethyst Shadow. So this is her 8515 Superwash Merino and Nylon plush sock yarn combination, and I loved them together. Like I caked them up right away, and I wanted to cast something on. I'm like, okay, no, I've got to get through. I knew there were some places in my projects where I was kind of like not wanting to finish, so I'm like, okay, when I finish the cables on my Festival of Shawl stitches, then I can cast on with this yarn. So I made myself wait until I did that, and then immediately, once I'd finished the cables, I started knitting with this yarn. And the colors are just, they're just really lovely. And I love them together. So here is my Musselburgh in project, and this is in progress. And here is another thing that she sent in that package. She, because she was laughing at my comments about the different notions I'd either never tried or didn't like or things like that. So she sent me a bag full of like notions and things to play with. And a lot of the things in here are those cute little needle stoppers. And I have to tell you, I'm a convert now. I've got these on some of my projects. I usually use like metal silicone with silicone tube things on the top, and you pop your needles in and they hold them in place. They're very clangy and noisy, but they work just fine. I like them just fine. But now she sent me a bunch of different ones of these like little needle toppers, and they are so cute. I'm a convert now to these little stinkers. They're adorable. I've got these, and I've got some other ones here on these needles. Little coffee cups with smiley faces. Like, they're so stinking cute. So I'm a convert. She's converted me. Cheryl, you have made me convert to these cute little things. It's just so, I don't know. There's something about them when you open your project and you pull them out and you see something adorable like that. You just have to smile. So yes, I really like them. Thank you, Cheryl, for sending me these. And yes, just another thing now that I want to add to all of my projects. I still use my metal ones, the tube thing as well, but these are just so cute. You can't help but smile when you see these adorable little things. So the hat is really very simple. You start with a closed cast on and use whatever method you like for that little circumference at the top. So I think I did two circulars. The two circulars method on 16-inch circulars worked just fine. And then I just kept increasing, following the pattern, which is really, I love the way it's written where you check your gauge. I wasn't quite keen on the 20% negative ease, so I'm knitting a larger size than she would suggest probably, but I like a little slouchier give to my hat. So that is working. I mean, I'm already done the increases. I'm working the body of the hat. When I had enough stitches, I just switched to just the one 16-inch circular. I've got the other one still sitting here, so when it comes to the other half, so when I get to like the halfway point, or like however long the hat needs to be with like where you would fold it up, you'd stop, and I'm going to start the second color. So I've got like a 2-color hat, and when I fold up the brim, you'll see the second color, and then it's reversible as well. If you've seen the pattern before, you know. So you knit that until you have to start decreasing. So all of like your yarn ends, well, I will weave them in before I do the final decrease section, but then everything is the wrong sides all on the inside. You never see it. You only have like a double-sided fabric. So I really like how it's knitting up. It's got lovely, lovely colors in there. And it was actually, I'm thinking, well, I'm doing a series on variegated yarn, And this would be one of those yarns where it would be fun to, whenever you get to a certain color, do like a purl stitch, just for something to add a little bit of texture. And the pattern's simple enough that you could definitely do that. So I'm already thinking about doing something like that for my next hat. But I wanted something simple to knit. I watch a lot of dramas that are in foreign languages. Like I'm on a Turkish drama kick. I'm watching a lot. And I just saved some Korean dramas, so those will probably be next. So you need something simple. I want something in my hands, but I don't want anything I have to spend a lot of time looking at. So something like this is absolutely perfect when I want to watch an episode and I can still keep my hands busy without having to pay attention to what I'm actually knitting. So I did want to show a few of the things that Cheryl sent in that package. Just a couple of them. Not everything, but a lot of the things I've decided I'm going to set aside and put in some of our giveaway packages in the future. But I wanted to show you some of the cute things that are included. And I think these are all things that would have been in like past subscription boxes, so you can get an idea of what's included in her subscription box. And that was part of the reason I chose Yarnable, was I really like the extras that are included. I want to try different tools and things that I would not probably have bought for myself. And I don't think I would have purchased those little needle toppers for myself, but now that I have them, I know they're not a necessity, but they're just fun and they're cute, and I like looking at them when I pull out a project and they've got that cute little needle topper. But she sent more like that, like these right here, which are just like geometric shape tip toppers and all these fun colors. And then a Susie J's Polymer Clay Sweets and Treats, this very cute little stitch marker. Looks delicious. Now I want some chocolate cake. And my daughter had never seen a slap bracelet before, so she's already got dibs on this, but I said I had to show it. It's just a ruler on one side and just a floral print on the other, but she's like, is that a slap bracelet? I've never seen one in person. So I had to show her, you know, how that works, how you would slap it on your wrist and it would wrap around your wrist, and she was so impressed with that. And it just made me laugh because I remember having a bunch of these when I was a teenager, a kid. So yes, now that I've shown it on the screen, I have lost it because she wants it now. Because she's an artist and she likes the idea of having a ruler that she can just grab and use whenever she needs it. So I need to get another one of these, I guess. It was just fun to see a slap bracelet. I hadn't seen one of these in a very long time. And another thing that I really appreciated is this tape measure. Like, it is a sturdy, like a really proper tape measure, not a fabric one that can get stretched out. So I really like this, and it's got the Yarnable logo on there. Just really nice. So this is definitely going in my Notions kit. I've already got like a tape measure. This one, I like this one better though, so I'm going to be swapping it out for this. It's just really, I really like this. A sturdy tape measure is one of my go-tos. I have a fabric one in there, but I'm always checking it to make sure it hasn't stretched out. I'm always worried that it's going to be stretched out and my measurements will be off. So a sturdy hard one like this is perfect to keep in your Notions bag. And speaking of that, I'm really on a splurge kick this month. I don't really buy a lot of extras a lot of the time, but I had a little extra fun money, so I spent it on knitting stuff. I got a new project bag. Most of my bags are just like really simple drawstring bags, just cloth, nothing spectacular about them. Like usually I get them like from trips, like I'll get one from like a reusable bag from a library. Like I got one from the New York Library when I was there. One of my favorite souvenirs is just a simple bag, but I wanted to splurge and buy a new one. I don't know, watching other podcasts and seeing all their pretty project bags just made me feel a bit jealous. So I bought myself one, and the one I picked the fabric is called Burly Beavers. Now, I grew up in Maine and I live in Quebec. We like our beavers and our buffalo plaid and our in the woods before it was like, what, the hipster thing to wear your flannel and your work boots. I was doing that in high school before it was cool. Like, that's just how you dressed. So my dad, his favorite jacket is buffalo plaid. So I saw this and I loved it. And the shop is So Sandy So. I'll have a link down below. And she's in Nova Scotia, I think. I can't remember now. She also sent me some little stitch markers with it. But this bag is just adorable, and it's nice. It's nicely put together. I bought some before that I mean, they're fine, but like the seams are sort of just sewn and they're not finished off, so you get like the threads unraveling and stuff. But this one is like everything is nicely finished. It's got that second layer inside, you know, that's all nicely finished, and the bottom is sort of like a heavier material, and you know, just a simple drawstring. So it's a good size for, maybe I could probably fit a shawl project in here. Probably 3 skeins of yarn and a shawl I could squeeze in there, or anything smaller, definitely like a hat or mittens or socks or something would definitely fit in here. But her bags are just nicely finished, and I just loved the fabric. I just couldn't help myself with, yes, with their thermoses and their axes, and yeah, just cute little burly beavers. So let me quickly show you my Yarnable subscription box. Now, I wanted to do this for a few reasons. I don't really have a stash. The yarn behind me is yarn for specific projects, or it's leftovers from designs or other projects. So I have like some bins down there with leftover yarns, and I do have some full skeins, you know, from leftover projects that will probably eventually either be something I do knit with or I use as a giveaway project or prize for the podcast. But I thought it would be fun to just get a skein of yarn every month and then choose a project based on that skein of yarn. And so I thought a yarn subscription box would be a good way to do that. I could get like different notions perhaps that I hadn't tried before. And also, if you know, I could either keep them for myself, or it gives me new things to put in my giveaway box. I keep a box under my desk, and when I buy things or I think of things would be nice to use for a giveaway, it goes in that box. So I thought this would be a good way to get some new things or keep things for myself if I want them. And they had different options, like you can do DK weight or fingering weight. And I went with the fingering weight because I felt like that was more versatile. You know, I could always knit socks with it, or a 1 skein project, or save it and use it with another skein. So I went with the sock weight yarn. So this is the plush sock Yarnable. This one is a life is short, eat the donut. So the whole theme of the package fits within that. So it's this really beautiful variegated yarn, or speckled. I guess it's more of a speckled yarn. So this is 8515 superwash merino nylon, and it comes in a cloth bag right here, which I really like as well. And I think when I do giveaways, that'll be nice to put the yarn in a cloth bag like that. So I don't know if that comes like that every month or if it was just this month, but we'll see. So that gives me something I can use for giveaways. And then it comes with like a little scratch thing on here and information about the extras that are included. So the extras are all in like this little zipper pouch, which is nice too, because, you know, keep all of your notions contained. So the first thing was wildflower seed tabs, which my daughter's already trying to figure out where we're going to plant these. So you just plant them somewhere. There's instructions, plant them under the soil, keep them moist, put them in a sunny corner, and watch your wildflowers grow. And then there are some new tip toppers. I just opened this. I hadn't really even looked at everything yet. Little cute donuts. I can't decide. I've already kept quite a few of these that Cheryl sent me. So I don't know if I'm going to keep these or if I'll be nice and generous and put them in the giveaway box. We'll see. I really like these needle toppers now. And this last thing, I laughed when I saw this. So this is a donut puzzle. It's a micro puzzle, but I'm a puzzle fanatic. Yeah, I think I did about 6 this year. I don't do them in the summer or the spring when it's nice enough to be outside. I spend most of my free time in the backyard with my knitting, watching YouTube, listening to a podcast, whatever. But when it gets cold and I'm stuck in the house, and sometimes I don't want to knit, I want to do something else with my hands. And you know, when we're watching TV at night or something, and so puzzles. I do a lot of puzzles. I think I did about 6 this year. Every couple of weeks I would go buy a new one. And now I've got quite a stash, so probably next year I won't buy any, maybe 1 or 2. We'll see. And then I've got a friend who also does puzzles, so we'll exchange, or I'll give some to her or something. So I laughed when I saw this. because it's a micro puzzle, tiny, tiny little pieces. How many pieces is this? 150 tiny pieces in here. So I'm going to do my last puzzle of the year, even though it's warm and I technically have already put all my puzzle stuff away. I can't resist. So it's just it's donuts is what it is. So I love the theme. It's a very cute theme to have everything themed like that, and really happy with the subscription box, and I'm looking forward. The next box I think is going to be shipping soon. I like that you can get a preview too of the yarn, and if you don't want it then you can skip a month. I like that, so you can like peek ahead, but the next one is very colorful and pretty too, a nice variegated yarn. So I don't usually buy variegated yarns for projects because sometimes they're hard to figure out. So we're going to be having a series of videos about variegated yarns coming up next month where we're going to talk about them. So I thought this was also a good opportunity for me to start buying them and choosing projects where it really highlights those beautiful colors instead of, you know, knitting with them and really being disappointed with how they look. So we're going to dive into that topic next month, but that's everything I wanted to show you. It's very weird to sit here and have a bunch of acquisitions, but there we are. I had stuff to show this month. I don't usually buy all the things, but it just worked out to buy stuff this month. But we have to finish with our giveaway. We got a nice little stack of prizes this month. So first of all is the yarn, because we always have to have yarn. I'm going to see if it's going to fit in that cloth bag actually. So this is Louise Robert collection from Biscot Yarns. Her merino worsted, the colorway is called Chardon. So this is 100% merino yarn and really lovely to knit with. It's got a nice like twist to it. So if you like cable projects, this is a really good one. Probably like a cable hat or something. There's probably enough here for a one skein, like a hat or mittens or something. But cables or texture, this yarn looks really good with that. And along with that, we have the book that I introduced at the beginning, Homestead Cables from Knit Picks. And there are a couple hats in here that probably one skein of yarn would work just perfectly, depending on the size you pick. But one skein is generally enough for a hat. And then along with that, some 16-inch circulars. Now, it's not going to be the right size for this particular yarn, but for other hats, it'll work just fine. So I think the US 4 3.5 millimeter Knit Pro Zings, which are really nice, slick metal needles. And the last thing to include is a little nerdy knitting pin. So this is our giveaway bundle for the month, a skein of yarn, a knitting book, knitting needles, and a pin. So nice little set right there. So to enter the giveaway, leave me a comment. Let me see, we need a question. Have you ever knit a cable hat? Let's just go with that since we're talking about cables. Just tell me if you've knit a cable hat and if you have a favorite pattern or anything about cable hats. Just leave a comment about that. And next Wednesday, I don't know the date, I forgot to write it down. Okay, so we're live. This video is live the weekend of the 27th. So we're going to close the giveaway on Wednesday, May 1st. That gives you a couple days to enter. Hopefully you're watching right away. So May 1st, the giveaway will be closed and I will be selecting a random comment using a random comment generator. And it has to be somebody who has answered that question about knitting a cable hat. If they've ever knit one, if they like them, whatever. Something about cable hats in the comment. And I will leave a comment under your comment telling you that you won and to email me with your full name and mailing address so I can mail your package out to you. And you have 48 hours to get back to me. If I don't hear from you within that time period, I'll have to select another winner, just so I'm not always waiting for somebody to get back to me. So, but I figure 2 days is plenty of time for you to respond to that comment and send me your mailing information so I can mail you your package. So the fine print, YouTube is not sponsoring this giveaway in any form. This is all like things I have received or used or bought myself. And so I guess I'm the sponsor for this giveaway. So YouTube's not involved at all. Other fine print is I live in Canada. If you live in another country and you win this prize, you're responsible for any customs or duties or taxes. Now, if for some reason you're in a country and the shipping is like insane and like expensive to send to you, instead of sending this, I will be sending you a $50 Wool Warehouse electronic gift card because they ship all over the place and you can just buy what you want from there. So far that hasn't been an issue, but if it ever is, I just want to have that disclaimer on there. So that's all the fine print. That's everything we have to talk about. So many things on my needles and all these new things that I looking forward to using some of these things that I just got from Cheryl. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for all of those lovely gifts and that Yarnable subscription. I'm really looking forward to using that yarn. But that's it for this month. So if you're new here and you want to catch up on past episodes, I will put a playlist of episodes from this year right there. And you can click through and catch up on all of these other projects that I've been working on. And if you've been around for a while, I'll put another video here that YouTube recommends that you watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.